All right, people. So we're here doing a little private class, and we just ran across a fun mishap. Right? Not too cool because hey, we're here trying to let her rip. So my guy here, Mo, put his Shadow Systems slide on a Gen 4 G17 frame and brought it out here to send her and get some work in. And we were trying to zero up the optic. It's a direct mounted Holosun, solid setup, nice backup sights and everything from Mariglow or something probably. Solid setup, but all of a sudden we start having issues right out of the gate, just trying to shoot some groups at 5 yards to see where the sight's printing and then move her on back and zero it. Already having some issues, light primer strikes, weird hang-ups, and just no bueno. So we start ripping into it, and we found several weird things. First things first, the striker would not move freely in the channel. So when you hit the plunger, depress the plunger with your thumb and shake it, it wouldn't move. So obviously we know there's an issue there. It should be nice and free. It should kind of jingle around in there as free as it gets. But it wasn't, so we know there's an issue there. And then we started looking around, and when you look down in the striker channel with a flashlight, you could see the safety plunger protruding into it, which we thought was a burr at first because it was really far into it. And you know, once we took it the rest of the way apart, we realized, geez, that thing is actually in there and it's beating on the safety plunger. So the safety plunger is actually getting beat up. Now, hopefully that'll focus, but no good. Now, the idea of this video is just plain tolerance stacking. So this little guy right here is from Glockstore. This slides from Shadow Systems. We've got OEM, Shadow Systems, Glockstore, all three manufacturers of shit in the same gun, and that's where you start ending up with tolerance stacking issues. And if you're not familiar with tolerance stacking, it's a fairly simple concept. It means that each individual part has tolerances. So the diameter of this little guy, the height of it, the width of it, the inside diameter, outside spring, all this shit has tolerances, and they have a tolerance of maybe 5 thousandths this way or 5 thousandths that way. So that's all good, no big deal. But if this Shadow Systems 19 or 17 upper is, they have the same tolerances of a couple thousandths this way or a couple thousandths that way. So the next thing you know, this thing's off a couple thousandths left, this thing's off a couple thousandths right, and we've got a gun that does not work. So tolerance stacking is huge. Now, we're not even sure at this point which one is the issue though. Because of that tolerance stacking thing, we can't determine by looking and tearing apart my gun that works and this gun that doesn't. We can't determine which one is off in which direction. I ain't got dowel calipers and micrometers out here to start messing around with this, so there's no way of us to tell which one is which. So now he's kind of at a place where, okay, what do? You call Shadow Systems, send the slide back, they look at it, everything's all good in tolerance, and it ends up being this thing from the Glockstore. You send this thing back to the Glockstore, and it ends up being this thing. Like, it's kind of a pain in the ass. So it's a real deal issue when you're building uppers and building 80%ers and just anything that isn't OEM stuff, which this is cool. This is awesome. It's awesome. I encourage people to do it. Just really do your due diligence and make sure that the thing all works freely and every individual part is nice and free in there. The striker channel, to me, on this feels like the tolerance of the striker channel isn't quite right. It kind of gets hung up in a little spot and then all of a sudden it goes in, but it's just tight all together, and it should be basically loosey-goosey in there. Obviously not loose like flopping around, but it should be, this one's about 50% more free than that one feeling. So I believe there's a little bit of tolerance issues with this Shadow Systems hookup, and I know some guys that shoot for these guys and they are solid stuff. So don't bash the shit out of one brand just because you have an issue with it. The shit comes off a CNC machine. It could be a bit going bad. Any little thing could have issues, and next thing you know, you got tolerance issues. But it could be anything. It's not really a knock on them. It's just a good example, an organic example of tolerance stacking. So one bad thing that happened though is in the process we shot what, 40 rounds, 50 rounds through it, trying to zero it and trying to get the gun to run, and just kind of messing around, checking it out, seeing what kind of issues we were having. And now the actual extractor won't come out. So it beat on something in there and mushroomed something out to where now, even prying on this with a screwdriver a little bit, we can't get the extractor out. Now, I'm no gunsmith, but I've had quite a bit of time with Glocks, and I know them inside and out. I don't have a Glock armor certification, but you know, I know what's what with them. I know how to take them apart. I know how they should work. I got the basic idea of her. I do all my own trigger work and all that kind of stuff. So, been doing it for a little bit, and this thing is mushroomed out and beat on in there somehow. It won't come out. We've got this thing with a big notch in it where it's getting beat on, and then the striker channel feels tight. So again, you're left with a weird thing that's like, what do we do now? So just wanted to set the camera up real quick and get a shot of this. Not beating on Shadow Systems. It's just a video talking about tolerance stacking and how shit can be just a tiniest little bit off, and actually down the road a couple steps later you've got issues. So take her easy.